Drive Live Formula One.
Hello and welcome to round 16 of the Formula One World Championship. Monza is the task at hand. It's the temple of speed. It's been around for forever and it's got a rightful place on the calendar because this place is awesome. Harry Benjamin is alongside me, our lead commentator this weekend. Abby Pulling, F1 Academy Championship leader and Alpine Academy driver. And I am so excited. I mean, this place, for a start, in the parkland, it's hot, it's sweaty, it's a real challenge for drivers to get it right. We've got 20 of the best drivers in the world, and Harry, we don't know. We can't even predict who's going to get pole position. This is the ideal place to be when it comes to round 16.
And the final European race of the season as well before we head further adrift. Formula One's in a really good place right now. And this weekend has been a tricky one to kind of get a good read on. We've got a mix of teams bringing different levels of upgrades. The track has been entirely resurfaced, which has made degradation data completely redundant from the past, along with how you're managing your tyres and the temperatures. I'll tell you what, I think we've got a 4-team fight for the front row right now. I think for
7 drivers.
7. Yes, 2, 4, 6, 8. Oh, 7 minus Perez, and then I think Red Bull.
That's mean, Harry. I can't believe you're starting so mean.
I hope he proves me wrong. But I think Red Bull, never discount them. They haven't had the smoothest of rides so far, particularly over one-lap pace. They just haven't been able to keep it clean. Ferrari are looking really good on home soil. Both Mercedes drivers fast, and of course the McLarens are the strongest car right now in Formula One. So generally, by the time it gets to Q3, not sure what's going to happen.
The Italian fans, the Tifosi, have poured into Monza. They've watched their favourites come into the circuit, standing just under that underpass. They cheer down. They've got banners, posters, flags everywhere, and it's perfect conditions for watching qualifying. Abby, just describe what it's like to be at Monza, driving at Monza, to be a fan at Monza. It's great.
I mean, being a driver around the track, it is, as you say, the Temple of Speed. It's one of the fastest tracks on the calendar, and it has such a special collection of corners. Obviously, there's Ascari, the Lesmos, Parabolica. You don't get corners like that anywhere else, and just the technique behind it of the drivers, and obviously the fans as well, as you mentioned, they're all cheering on, especially the red team Ferrari. It's so special to see them. Obviously, they climb. You know, in the past they've been known to climb the fences. There's so much passion there, and it's really special.
It certainly is. There's flares dropping off just by the start-finish straight, of course, red. The giant heart flag is embroidered and beautifully made, and it's hovering just over the fans in the grandstand. And Harry, could they do it? They've done it before.
Absolutely. I mean, they have the record here when it comes to pole positions. They've got 71 podiums, 19 wins to their name, 23 pole positions around this Monza track. High speed, you're getting up to 350 kilometers an hour. I think Ferrari have got what it takes. Carlos Sainz will be willed on. It's his birthday tomorrow. It'll be his last race as a Ferrari driver. I think that's going to bring a little bit of emotion to him as well. And Charles Leclerc has such an affinity with the Tifosi as well. Put it on pole back in 2019 and 2022, of course, winning in 2019 for Charles Leclerc. I would not rule the 2 Ferraris out, and Leclerc outperformed his machinery last time out in Zandvoort. If he can outperform and then the Ferrari has actually come up to good performance, we're on for a blinder.
I cannot wait. As you say, there are so many drivers and so many teams that could do this. Of course, Sainz will continue to the end of this year with Ferrari. It's his last race at Monza. So next year, it will be Lewis Hamilton in that car. And we've had an announcement today. In case you've missed it, we've only got 30 seconds until the pit lane opens. But we have a new Mercedes driver from next year. Who is it, Harry?
It is the 18-year-old Kimi Antonelli, who has been hotly tipped for the seats and made his debut in FP1, crashed the car, also crashed in F2, but that doesn't matter. He's going to be the Lewis Hamilton replacement for next year.
Abby, have you heard much about him? Have you met him? Do you rate him, first and foremost?
Yeah, I mean, you can't not rate him. He's so special. I think we've said it before that he's won in everything that he's raced in, basically, and Yeah, I haven't crossed paths with him, funnily enough. You know, I've been in the paddock going up the ranks myself, but never quite been shoulder to shoulder with him yet.
Like bosses and taxis, you will now meet him numerous times. You'll probably end up in exactly the same place as him as you go through this season, and you'll be like, can you just stop following me? But it's very exciting. Mercedes are very proud of bringing him in. He's gone through the junior program, and you know yourself, Abby, junior programs being elevated through those is so important for not only the brand but the drivers who are coming up as well.
Yeah, it's really important to show that, you know, the teams are putting faith in their young drivers, and especially Mercedes promoting Kimi Antonelli. It's an amazing opportunity. And obviously we've also got Jack Doohan next year with Alpine coming through the ranks. It's just showing that the academies are doing their job.
And Franco Colapinto, everyone's favourite driver out there, and to be able to say his name properly as well is quite a task, but we've done it. He's driving for Williams, his first ever F1 qualifying, and it's Monza, which can be a tricky track. It can be tricky because of traffic, and Harry, you can talk us through every move of but not only his qualifying but all 20 drivers.
No, I think I'm just going to focus on Colapinto for
that would
the
be
whole
great.
session.
Could you imagine?
Well, we are looking forward to see how Colapinto can do. He was only a few tenths off Alex Albon in the final practice session, the 21-year-old from Argentina who has replaced Logan Sargent for the remainder of the season at Williams, in James Vowles and the team's vision with their new upgrades on Williams to be able to score points when they can with both cars in that brutal fight in the lower half of the Constructors' Championship. Indeed, they're in a fierce fight with the likes of Alpine and Haas ahead of them, Sauber on 0 points behind them. But the green light has been on at the end of the pit lane for a few minutes now. 18 minutes already down to just over 16 minutes for this first part of Q1, where the slowest 5 drivers will be eliminated and straight out onto the track. The 2 Ferraris, Hülkenberg in the Haas, Gasly's Alpine, Magnussen's Haas, the other Alpine of Ocon, and Zhou Guanyu in the Sauber, all making their way out here. And Abby, Jenny touched on it a moment ago, one thing to really focus on in Q1 is traffic management, because it can get chaotic with so many cars on the track.
Yeah, it's super busy. I mean, we even saw it in we've seen it in the junior categories this weekend, but we've also seen it in even FP3. It was pretty busy on track. Oscar getting out of one car, getting in the way of another, so it's hard for the drivers. That's where the engineers come in, kind of giving them the cues, telling them how far behind the cars are. But you know, you miss a beat and it can be pretty annoying for one of the drivers on a hot lap.
Yeah, as Carlos Sainz embarks on his first flying lap, DRS, the rear wing flap flies open, then slams shut into the braking zone for the first chicane, turns 1 and 2, the Retifilia chicane. Then you'll squirt on the throttle out of the exit of turn 2 before you head through the right-hander that arcs through Curva Grande before the next chicane of 4 and 5. That's the De La Rocha chicane. Leclerc also starting a lap as well, and interesting, it will be Leclerc he was the one that was kind of done, as you alluded to there, when it came to traffic. Had a little bit of a skirmish with Oscar Piastri coming out of the second Lesmo that Carlos Sainz is about to head into now. On the face of it, as Sainz almost loses the Ferrari coming through the second Lesmo, has to just have a correction on the steering wheels. We were riding on board. I think he might have kicked up a bit of gravel as well. Not so much the case for Charles Leclerc, who manages to get out of the second Lesmo fine on this occasion. But during FP3, Piastri, on the face of it, didn't quite see him, and Leclerc had to take avoiding action and almost drive onto the grass to the right-hand side of Piastri. And I think Piastri was a little bit more focused on the RB of Daniel Ricciardo that was behind him. Well, they'll get away with that in practice. They won't get away with that kind of behaviour in qualifying, because we've seen how much teams will try and get that toe, because it can bring you so much speed, so much more lap time, as Leclerc puts the fastest time of all on the board, a 1:20.074.
Impressive pace to start off by Leclerc. We've actually just seen Pierre Gasly also has a problem with the front of his brakes. There's some smoke coming out of it, so that's not a good start for them, unfortunately. Hopefully they can find the issue and keep going. But we just saw I think that was Sainz.
That was Sainz just saying, I had a moment. So he's coming out the second Lesmo, Abby. What happened for Sainz?
He just dipped a wheel in the gravel, kind of pushing the limits, pushing the boundaries on that first push lap, and pushed him a little bit too far. He got pretty squirmy on the exit of, I think that was Lesmo 2, so not an ideal start, but there's plenty of time to put in a lap.
Just under 13 minutes remain. Leclerc currently fastest ahead of Hülkenberg and Magnussen as Max Verstappen embarks on his first flying lap. Jenny.
Just to update you, Carlos Sainz has taken all new power units. There's no penalty because it's within the allowance, but interesting timing for the Ferrari team to take that new engine and give him everything they and he have got.
Thanks, Jenny. As Carlos Sainz reports back to the team, check the floor of the car. So worried that he might have picked up a little bit of damage from his skirmish off the track there. Kevin Magnussen out on track and actually just gone back into the pits. But if you were with us for FP3, the Haas was told to pull over on the run down to Ascari very quickly and reported that they've managed to complete a gearbox change. So Magnussen was straight out and now back into the pits and is currently third fastest. Verstappen on his first flying lap on that soft compound of tyre has just come out through the second Lesmo and again almost had a bit of a wobble, dipping a wheel onto the gravel, just come through Ascari now on the rundown to the right-hander of the Parabolica. So we see this all weekend long, Abby, particularly with the Red Bull and Max Verstappen. They are just pushing those limits and are still making mistakes up to qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, as a driver you need to find the limits and surpass them almost to bring yourself back. It's a big thing in knowing your limits, and stepping over them all the time isn't ideal. As we saw, Carlos Sainz might have some damage to his floor. Obviously they're quite complicated in this new era, and a lot goes on underneath there, and any little damage can affect you for going forward in qualifying.
To the top of the timing sheets goes Lando Norris, who is looking for another pole position, a fourth pole position. Can he do it on Italian home soil? Well, he's fastest at the moment, the 1:19.9. His teammate, though, has just had a moment down at turn one, locked up the front right and had to bail out of it. And now what they've done is they've added a little strip of gravel on the inside of the chicane where it used to just be full tarmac runoff. They've added in a bit of gravel. Abby, why would they do that? Just a tiny thin strip.
Well, they'd normally have a sausage curb there to try and make it less appealing to go over, essentially, and it actually causes more damage than what it's worth. So they've pushed it to be gravel, which I think is the best solution, because having the sausage curbs can also create injury for the drivers as well. It's just an unnecessary kind of risk, really.
Well, just under 10.5 minutes to go. Piastri now having another go, having made a mistake on that first lap. He's going okay in the first sector. A little bit of traffic from the RB in front of him as he makes his way through the first Lesmo. Jenny.
It's important, isn't it, for Piastri to be on form this weekend. McLaren desperately want a 1-2. They want a challenge for that Constructors' Championship, and they need both of their drivers to be on form and both at the front of this race.
10 minutes to go then, still waiting lap times from Piastri, who's on his way to setting one. Alonso no time yet, along with his teammate Stroll. Bottas, neither hasn't set a lap time, and the two Mercedes all on out laps at the moment. Bottas is going really well in the first sector actually, and Bottas was flying early doors in free practice one. We don't know the fuel loads of course in free practice, but it was going well on the soft tyre was Bottas, hoping to try and recover from a rather woeful Zandvoort last time around where both Saubers finished plumb last. Piastri comes across the time, half a second adrift, Abby.
Yeah, half a second off his teammate, nearly 6/10. That's probably not what he was wanting for his first push lap, but as we saw, didn't get the peak of the tyre. He went off on his first push, which would have took a lot of life out of it, especially with this new tarmac. It seems to be kind of harrowing them tyres a little bit.
Yeah, and that put him fourth at the moment. It's Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, Piastri and Hülkenberg fifth. Then comes Albon, Magnussen, Ricciardo. Colapinto is in ninth at the moment, along with Tsunoda, who rounds out the top 10. Perez is 11th. Then comes Ocon, Gasly, Zhou and Sainz 15th. As Stroll puts his Aston Martin up into 8th. That puts Sainz down into the knockout zone. Alonso up to 5th. George Russell on a flyer right now. hurtling towards the Parabolica, the final corner, the right-hander, and on the run down, kicks up the little bit of sparks from the underside of his silver Mercedes to the line then for George Russell. No time on the board yet. What's it going to be? It's fourth fastest for Russell, a 1:23.20 as we await his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who is just entering the final corner now, and across the line for Hamilton. It's not as quick as his teammate, it's just behind him in fifth. So the two Mercedes, 4/10 off for Russell, half a second off for Hamilton. Lando Norris, though, his time sitting pretty at the top.
Yeah, and Hamilton actually almost getting in the way of one of the Ferraris starting a push lap. So hopefully nothing's done there, but it was pretty laid back. There wasn't too much issues.
Just listening into the Williams, and Alex Albon saying that he's now got smoke on the front brakes as well. So it is hot out there at the moment. Track temperature is 51 degrees. No wonder they've got some degradation on those tyres. And the air temperature 33.7.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, it's starting to heat up a little bit. Still got 7.5 minutes left on the clock. In the elimination zone at the moment is Sergio Perez, who's currently in the pits and is having a woeful time at the moment. He's been knocked out of Q1 4 times so far this year. He does not want to make it a fifth. Ocon is 17th. Zhou is 18th. Gasly is 19th. Sainz is currently 20th and last, but he is set to catapult his way up into the top 15. We'll see where he comes out the final corner. Fastest of anybody in the first sector, good middle sector, and across the line for Sainz.
The tyres are nowhere, sliding massively.
That was Russell on the radio, not happy with his tyres, lacking grip, as Sainz pops up to third.
Yeah, they just seem to be struggling. It's this new tarmac. The Mercedes are struggling to find that window, although we've seen, I feel like we don't read into it too much now, as we've seen them so fast in the practices. They are ones to watch for our pole position later on. But yeah, as we see Esteban Ocon on a cool lap, recharge his battery, getting ready to go on through another push.
Harry, can we just have a chat about toes? Because around Monza, not those sorts of toes, not your feet, but how important is it to have a toe from someone to try and help assist with a faster time?
Well, I think it's very important, Abby, isn't it?
Yeah, well, as a driver, any time is best, and if you can just have someone punching a hole in front of you and chasing them down, it's such a benefit, and it can be that difference that you need to either get into the next qualifying session or to take that pole at the end.
Yeah, we have seen years gone by here at Monza where I vividly remember the Ferraris of Alonso and Massa always trying to orchestrate some sort of toe. Massa usually being the sacrificial lamb for Fernando Alonso, but never getting it right. Of course, now we see cars trying to use other teams rather than rely on their teammates to get a tow, and that can lead to all sorts of bother, mainly within the last 5 minutes of Q1, which is what we are about to head into now. A lot of the cars in the pits and just waiting to go out for one final flyer. Out on track at the moment is the Williams of Albon, the two Alpines of Gasly and Ocon. Leclerc is out on track too, and along with Sergio Perez, who's just heading out on an outlap too. Perez needs to get a hurry on here. He's down in 19th at the moment, Jen.
It feels like this racetrack is an opportunity for Williams to actually try and score some points. They're desperate to get some, which is why they've taken the decision to bring in Franco Colapinto to just try and get something. And this track seems to go well for them. Yeah,
Williams seem to always go well at Monza. They've got a really good package here, high speed. So we see Albon going into turn 1, hard on the brakes. It's an amazing collection of corners, this. Turn 1 and 2, the Rettifilo chicane, and into Curva Grande. It's just such a beautiful track, seeing the Williams go around, and I really think they've got a good chance with Albon to break into that Q3. They've been really strong, as we've seen in the past, and they've continued that into this weekend.
They've just got 4 points on the board at the moment, but back of the field fight is really close, with Sauber having to score yet. Williams on 4, 13 for Alpine, and Haas 27. So there's room to earn another $9 million, I think it is.
Yeah,
so
it is quite literally millions of dollars on the line for those smaller teams at the back. Albon just making his way through the Ascari chicane now. Williams, who are a team that have history here, 7 pole positions to their name. They're not in the fight for pole this weekend, but last year Alex Albon managed to qualify 6th as a best race result here of 6th, but that was back in his Red Bull days in 2019. But now he has a fully upgraded Williams. So too does his new teammate of Franco Colapinto this weekend. What's Albon got as he comes across the line? Puts that Williams up into 8th. He will have enough time just about, if he's got the tyre life left and the battery, to do another lap. 3 minutes on the board, so just enough time to do one more cool down lap before pushing. Colapinto is on an out lap at the moment. The gap before Albon just set that quicker time was again around 2 or 3 tenths. So Colapinto is showcasing why he has been the man to get called up in place of Logan Sargent, who we will no longer see in Formula One. Colapinto here for the rest of the season. Now just getting a look in the pit lane, and here's Verstappen.
Maybe almost crashed.
Yeah, I saw that, Max.
That was Max Verstappen coming out, first of all, of a very narrow garage. There's really not a lot of room for him to come out. And as he's coming down the pit lane, McLaren released one of their cars right in front of him. I think it was Oscar Piastri. And Verstappen had to slam on the brakes and steer slightly left. That, Abby, is an unsafe release. Slam dunk, surely.
Definitely a slam dunk. It's unfortunate. I mean, there was no need to risk that for the McLarens. Obviously, everyone at the end of the pit lane, they were all, what do we call it? Kind of backing each other up. Dawdling, yeah, that's the word for it, to try and get the track position in a tow.
Sergio Perez out on track. He's in trouble here. He's down in 19th. He's found time, though, in the middle sector. What's he got as he comes across the line? Needs to impress Red Bull for the remainder of the year if they can hang on that long. Crosses the line to go 9th. Almost 7/10 of a second off Lando Norris's fast time. What is going on with Red Bull and Sergio Perez right now? Verstappen is also in 4th and a little bit off the pace here, but final lap times in the last minute and a half coming through. At risk at the moment is Ricciardo and Colapinto, who goes off at the second Lesmo, pushing that little bit too hard, and as Colapinto thrown it away in this final Q1 run. He's been showcasing great progression, has the Argentinian driver. He's down in 17th at the moment and at risk, and that would have lost him a huge chunk of time. Magnussen's in 14th and absolutely scrambling with his Haas to make it through. Ascari dips a toe once again onto the gravel. At risk is Ricciardo, Colapinto, Tsunoda, Bottas and Joe, who all need to find time. Perez managed to get himself way up into 9th, and Magnussen's lap comes to a terrible end as he comes through the parabolica and almost just drives off the track so slowly his teammate has to get out of the gas coming up behind him, and Hulkenberg giving a lovely tow to Alonso as he comes across the line. But Magnussen going off in the final corner has brought out the yellow flag, so everybody behind him would have had to have eased off, and immediately the green flag comes out, so we're back to full racing speed. 20 seconds on the clock. Alonso managed to get up to 10th in that last scramble. Magnussen has come back to the pits. Hulkenberg is 13th. Stroll is on the bubble. Is anybody going quickly? Let's watch for Daniel Ricciardo. Round the final corner. Needs to try and improve and beat his teammate. Tsunoda has made it up into 15th. Can his teammate knock him out in Q1? He can. Ricciardo through and into Q2. Daniel Ricciardo up to 15th. Max Verstappen's going quick as well, but he'll be safe up in 4th and finding time. But those at the back vying to make it through to Q2 will no longer get any more time to do it. Tsunoda in the RB finds himself out in 16th. Lance Stroll is 17th. Franco Colapinto in his first qualifying as a Williams Formula One driver will start 18th ahead of the 2 Saubers of Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. Well, that all got a bit frenetic at the end, didn't it, Abby?
I was going to say, what a dramatic end to Q1 there, where we've lost, I think most unfortunately, Colapinto. He was showing so fast all weekend, and I think he had the capability to get to Q2, but that really, really big moment out of Lesmo 2, he almost ended up probably in the wall if he didn't save it. So it's unfortunate there, but yeah, let's see what happens in the next.
Well, I think Colapinto will be frustrated at that. What time was there in the bag for Colapinto at the end? What was his fastest lap? A 1:21.0. Albon made it through with a 1:25. So that half a second between them, and what we've really gauged is about 3/10 at the moment so far. I think if he hadn't have had that off, I think Colapinto might well have made it through into Q2. But still, a first qualifying underneath Franco Colapinto's belt. Ricciardo out-qualifies Tsunoda for only the 6th time this season. Important for Daniel Ricciardo to do that. But that, Jenny, is Q1 done and dusted. Tsunoda, Stroll, Colapinto, Bottas and Joe all out. Here is Joe.
So many cars going off ahead of me. Unbelievable.
I mean, he's saying so many cars going off in front of me, but actually, would they have got through anyway? I find it hard to believe they've been really challenged this season to find any form. Bottas also didn't get a clean run either. He finished P19, and it's another disappointing weekend so far for the Sauber team that will become Audi. And when you're watching a team with such heritage and who have been able to push so many times, Abby, it's really difficult to watch them just lingering at the back with no hope of even getting out of the first part of qualifying.
Yeah, they weren't really showing any kind of signs of being close to getting out of Q1 this time around. It's unfortunate as we see Franco Colapinto on the onboard. He's coming around to Lesmo 2, and to be honest, it's all under control. There is apologising for that mistake he made. It was all under control by the apex, and then even to the exit until he just ran out of road.
Yeah, it's sad. What do you think Colapinto could have done? I mean, Alex Albon is his teammate. He's brand new to F1, but Albon managed to get his Williams up to P8. Do you think James Vowles will be like, okay, put an arm around him, you did okay?
I think maybe in that moment.
Magnussen.
Oh my God, man.
It's not Sunday yet.
As I was saying, I think maybe in that moment the pressure might have just gotten to him a little bit, and he just wanted that extra little bit that just wasn't there, and overstepped the boundaries.
I mean, the pressure got to a lot of people, and we're just watching onboards of the people failing to get through and why they failed to get through, and how hard they found it. That was Lance Stroll, and yes, he got through, but it was hard work. No, he didn't get through.
No, he didn't get through.
Sorry.
I think he didn't get through because he had to lift off for the yellow flag for Kevin Magnussen. Bizarre for Kevin Magnussen. It looked like he was really on rails coming through Ascari in the Haas, and then coming through the final corner of Parabolica. We just saw it like he had a little bit of a snap mid-corner and then just drove out wide and came to a slow in the gravel. He mainly hampered his teammate, I have to say. Hulkenberg was the next car behind him. Hulkenberg did make it through. In fact, both Haas's did make it through. But there is an awful lot of gravel on the track, Jenny.
There is, and the start of Q2 will be delayed. Well, they just moved this gravel off the track, and you can see they've got really old-fashioned brooms. Have you seen that? They're really long and very efficient, but I've never seen it. It's like a witch's broom. I've never seen something like that before.
Yeah, I mean, well, after sessions they normally bring out a massive sweeper, but I think for time constraint reasons they're just getting all the manpower and as many people as possible out there with just say their little witches' brooms.
Let's focus at the front of that. After qualifying one, it's Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz the top four. Then it's Russell, Verstappen, Hamilton, Albon, Perez and Alonso the top 10. And this is game on, Abby, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's so close at the top. Like Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri, second and third, they were basically identical on times, 0.02 of a second difference. I think, and that's only Q1. You know, Q3 is going to be pretty intense for the top spot.
Oh yes, I think it's going to liven up as we go on. Stewards are investigating car 44. That is Hamilton failing to follow race directions instructions. We got a lot of that. It's all to do with maximum delta time. I don't think there'll be any issue for that. But Piastri, could he be in trouble for that unsafe release?
Yeah, he's definitely at risk. It was pretty slam dunk. It was kind of black and white really, which is unfortunate because as we're saying, Lando Norris, he needs his wingman there. He needs him up there to kind of get in the way of everyone, especially that pesky Max Verstappen.
But Max Verstappen, Harry, he's in 6th place at the moment. He didn't look comfortable. He said on the radio, I almost crashed. There was a lot of traffic in front of him, and getting a clean lap is difficult here. But P6?
At the moment, behind a Mercedes, behind the 2 Ferraris, and behind the 2 McLarens. This is not going the way Max Verstappen would like it to, and I feel like we've almost been lulled into a false sense of security over the years with Max Verstappen, because when it looks like they're struggling, he always just seems to pull it out of the bag when it comes to qualifying. And hey, maybe he will come Q3, because he's having a better time of it than his teammate Sergio Perez, who is in that. So it was a 1:22 for Verstappen at the end of Q1, and a 1
at the moment you're P16.
Yeah, man, this is so ridiculous. It's so difficult to drive. It's so ridiculous.
Let's keep it clean on the radio and bring the car back in.
Oh, Tsunoda back to his old self there.
I thought that was clean, wasn't it? There was
there's no swearing.
It was just
or anything.
ridiculous. Tsunoda there on the radio.
I don't think it's the most helpful feedback for the garage to get that. What do you think? You're a driver. Tell me.
I mean, he's obviously very emotional. He's very frustrated. As we always say, instead of saying the car's just rubbish, you say, okay, well, why is the car rubbish? What's the issue? So that's, as you say, not the most productive radio message, but just voicing his frustrations.
Less than half a tenth between him and his teammate going through into Q2. So that would have, I'm sure, fueled that Tsunoda radio message. But just coming back to the Red Bulls, Perez's quickest time was a 1:25, Verstappen's were 1:22, so there's a few tenths between them, which is kind of the normal gap I think we've come to expect, really. So, but because of how fine the margins are, that is enough to squeeze a Hamilton and an Albon between them. Yes, it's only Q1, but I think that highlights that I'm not sure how much more there is to give from the Red Bull at the moment. We've seen throughout the weekend Verstappen making mistakes, locking up, running wide, struggling with the balance. At one point in FP3, he's really struggling to say, or he was saying he was struggling to turn the car in high speed and low speed. So there is something not going well for him at Red Bull right now, and it's not a quick fix.
Okay, Q2 will start at 4:29 local time, so we've got about 2.5 minutes. The cars will start to go out. I expect it will be quite congested, 15 cars taking to the track, not as congested as Q1, but Abby, finding your space, finding the right space, what's the art to that?
Yeah, we saw them all dawdling on the pit exit. That's I'm surprised it's allowed, to be honest, as it can be quite dangerous, but you've got to ask your engineer, you've got to ask where the gaps are. That's a really key important thing, and you just got to be spatially aware is also a really important thing.
Just hearing and just debating Piastri and what the possible punishment could be for that unsafe release right in front of Max Verstappen. Going back through the records, I haven't done that. Someone else has done that, thankfully. Andrew Benson, of course, our F1 correspondent. €5,000 was the punishment when it's been done in the past. I was given some exact examples. De Vries in Silverstone last year and Russell in Japan. So that's the protocol. That's what's happened in the past. So might not be so bad, because it is the team's fault rather than the driver. The driver can't see, can he? He's sat in the cockpit and he's reliant on his number one mechanic to release him.
Yeah, like as you say, it isn't Oscar's fault. He just seems to be he's the face of the blame. But it's at the end of the day, it's the team's onus to make sure that there's the correct space for him to be released into.
And Piastri presumably will take that all day long. If that's the punishment, then fair enough. If he can just get that car on the front row.
Yeah, he should have been on the front row in Zandvoort. He wasn't. He should be right alongside Lando Norris, and at the moment Lando Norris is the quickest driver. But I tell you what, those pesky Ferraris are causing them trouble, and I think they are going to cause more and more trouble as we progress through Q2 and into Q3. Lando Norris is 70 points behind in the Drivers' Championship. McLaren need Oscar Piastri to back Norris, I think, and they need him to back him by being behind him on the grid and supporting him in the race.
You say that, Harry, and whilst I might agree, McLaren haven't made that step publicly, certainly. And Piastri going into this race was very adamant that he was going for it himself, is not mathematically out of the running for the championship. We all know it's almost impossible, but until that point, he will back himself and the team, and he may well go out there and certainly hustle for, if not take, pole position today. The McLarens are that strong.
Yes, absolutely. But the other problem that McLaren will have is even if they want to invoke some sort of hierarchy here, they can only do that if they are outright the fastest. And at the moment, if they've also got to battle the Ferraris, they are not collecting the points that they need. Ferrari are taking points off of them, which actually is going to fundamentally diminish Norris and Piastri's hypothetical title charge. So we shall see how that one plays out, but we've still got another qualifying session to get through. Q2 is underway and it's already down to just over 14 minutes remaining, and straight out onto the track are the two Ferraris, the two Alpines, the two Hasses and the RB of Ricciardo straight out. So this is a battle to get inside the top 10. And once again, the slowest 5 cars come the end of the next 13 minutes and 47 seconds will be eliminated. And I suppose one thing is the track is slightly cleared now, so that means there's less problems with traffic. The sun still shining down in Monza, air temperature just over 33 degrees, track temperature just under 50 degrees, so the track getting hotter and hotter. So keeping the tyres in shape is going to be a tough order of the day on these flying runs. Jenny? Just
worth noting, in Q1, Leclerc and Norris nailed their first lap. They were on it, but we saw Piastri and Sainz having a big trip into the gravel as well. So they took their second time to nail their laps. So mistakes as well coming into the factor here around this Monza circuit. Carlos Sainz round the Parabolica to begin his first flyer of the day, of Q2 I should say, for Ferrari. Into the braking zone, Abby, of the first chicane as the DRS slams shut.
Yeah, it's starting his first push lap. Hopefully he doesn't have the problems that he had in Q1. I think it's really important to get a banker in for the first one. If you mess up the first lap, then the second one's got to be perfect.
Just looking at the order, it's Sainz right ahead of Leclerc, then Gasly and Ocon, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Hülkenberg, Perez and Verstappen. So they are trying to tow.
The two Mercedes, Albon and Alonso, yet to come out of the pits. So yeah, tows trying to be the order of the day. Carlos Sainz currently fastest in the first sector. Leclerc can't match him on that lap. For Leclerc, it's a 26.6. For Sainz, it's a couple of tenths up. A 26.4 in the first sector. Through the middle sector for Sainz, it is a 27.1. But Leclerc is quicker, a 26.9. It is tight though between the two Ferraris. And I think taking away the fastest lap time in the first sector is actually Nico Hülkenberg. So I think one thing we will see here, Abby, is track evolution as well being the order of the day. It might well be, due to the nature of this new surface, almost like when it's sort of raining, last man across the line.
Yeah, track evolution around Monza is huge. I mean, we even saw in FP3 that there's quite a lot of dirt on the outside of the track. The racing line is very, very distinctive, and yeah, you don't want to go too far off it, but yeah, as you say, the track's getting hotter and hotter. The tyres are able to cope with it less and less, and we're seeing the mistakes coming through the drivers, which is key to ironing them out for the rest of qualifying.
Norris fastest of anybody in the first sector. Verstappen making his way through Ascari as he threads the needle through the left, then the right arc, then jinks out back to the left before you're spat out down the back straight, getting up to almost 300 kilometers an hour before you slam onto the brakes, heading into the final corner just after the 50-meter braking board through the right-hander of the Parabolica. Piastri's going quicker, Norris is going quicker than Verstappen can manage. Verstappen across the line for his lap time. It's fastest for the moment with a mighty final sector, a 1:19.8. What's Piastri got in the locker as he comes across the line? He can beat him, but it's not by much. Just over half a tenth of a second between Piastri and Verstappen, but it's Norris who is fastest in the first sector. Lost a little bit of time in the middle sector, still up overall, and how was that for tight? Less than a tenth between himself and Piastri. Piastri. It's Norris who now tops the session in Q2. 10 minutes remain. Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, the top three. Jen.
Just so you know, Norris and Piastri are both on new tyres. They've set their times on new tyres. Everyone else at the moment, apart from Verstappen, on used. So Verstappen also setting his time on a new tyre.
Thank you very much, Jenny. At risk at the moment if it were to end like this. Ocon, well, we're still waiting. Actually, Ocon just got into 10, and we're still waiting for lap times, really, from Albon, Russell, Hamilton, and Alonso, who are now out on the track in an out lap as Albon makes his way through the Curva Grande. And this, Abby, could be a real chance for Williams to get a car into Q3 and to get some crucial points on the board this weekend.
Alex has been immensely fast. He's really shown that the Williams is it's a strong circuit for the Williams, and I definitely think they've got a good opportunity as we see him going through Lesmo 1 right now, on the limit as always, touching the grass on the entry of Lesmo 2, touching the gravel on the exit of Lesmo 2 as well. He's really putting that car for its paces, and I think he's got a really good chance of getting to Q3.
Russell, Hamilton, both the Mercedes on new tyres as well. Russell leading Hamilton round. They've just started their hot laps.
Thank you, Jenny. 8 minutes and 45 seconds remain as the Williams just tries to get a little bit of a cheeky toe from the McLaren of Lando Norris in front of him, heading down to the Parabolica. Norris didn't really want to give him any more and got out of the way as Albon darted back to the racing line. Albon across the line then, a 1:24.60, enough to put him 8th fastest. Not as quick as Hülkenberg, ahead of him though. Not much, 33 hundredths of a second between Hülkenberg and Albon. Magnussen is 9th, then comes Gasly in 10th, but we await to see what Russell, Alonso and Hamilton have all got. Russell making his way through the final corner now as the sun glints off the silver arrow. Sparks fly from the underside of the Mercedes as he crosses the line, enough for 4th fastest behind Verstappen. Alonso goes 10th, then comes Hamilton, who might have got a little bit of a toe from Alonso behind. Hamilton up to P1 by less than a 10th. Hamilton fastest, but I tell you what, he was giving an immense toe to Carlos Sainz out of the back corner, who now embarks on a flying lap. Another one from Sainz, so I think Sainz is going to have a mighty first sector here.
That is the pace we've been waiting to see from the Mercedes. Yeah, of course, claiming that top spot on the Q2 so far, but we've still got 7.5 minutes to go, so there's still time for improvements as we see Sainz coming through the second chicane, going purple in sector 1, so he's not giving them much time to rest.
No, he got a lovely toe as he started his lap from Hamilton, who was just finishing it. So it worked out beautifully for Carlos Sainz, a 26.3 in the first sector. Compare that to Leclerc, a 10th off, 26.4. We'll see what Leclerc can do in the middle sector. He is ever so slightly quicker than Carlos Sainz through the middle sector, but it is nip and tuck between the two Ferraris. But they're both not as quick as Lewis Hamilton's fastest time so far, which stands. Of course, remember, this is the battle to get into the top 10. Everybody from 11th downwards will be eliminated. Sainz comes across the line, moves from 7th up into 3rd, a 10th and a half off Lewis Hamilton. Charles Leclerc making his way now to the line. What has the Monegasque driver got? No, not enough. 7th spot, improving on his lap time, but over 3/10 off. I wonder, did Leclerc have a little mistake on his lap or not, or was it just a little bit slower? Well, we'll wait to see if anything happened on that one. Just try and look at his sector times. No, they were all okay. So, Jenny?
Someone that did have problems out there, Max Verstappen, he was reporting understeer, and he started the message and then kept going, and it was every corner basically he came to, he had some problems. So he's not happy with his car at the moment. P5 for Max Verstappen and Red Bull.
At the moment, if it were to end like this with just over 5 minutes remaining, Alonso, Magnussen, Gasly, Ocon and Ricciardo would all be out.
Yeah, car is not turning at all again.
So that might explain why Charles Leclerc had a bit of a rough last lap around. when they say that, Abby, the car is not turning, I mean, obviously it is physically turning, but so what are they referring to there?
It's just not reacting the way that they want or expect. Obviously, clearly he's wanting a bit more on the nose, as we call it in drivers' terms. He wants a bit more pointiness, and he's not getting it. So clearly, it's been a reoccurring issue as well, as he made sure to say again at the end of that radio message. Yeah, we've seen, I think Red Bull as well, they've been struggling with some of the steers. So it seems to be quite a common balance issue here.
Lewis Hamilton also on the radio saying his tyres are too hot. And now this is a problem that our new man, Kimi Antonelli, suffered with yesterday. He was going so fast, but he couldn't manage his tyres the whole way around the lap, and that caused him to go off at Parabolica and crash in FP1. Now, Hamilton and George Russell are partnering until the end of the year. And Hamilton just not finding those tyres working all the way around this lap. Is that going to be a problem for them, Abby, to keep those tyres alive?
Yeah, well, as we've seen, the first push is the fastest normally. If they make a mistake on that first push, it's a bit crispy whether they can make the most out of it on that second push. So yeah, throughout the lap there's a lot of demands on the car, especially going through Ascari. It's a very high load corner, so going up to Parabolica, when you ask for that last little bit on the rear left, it just wants to give out, and that's, as you say, what we saw with Kimi Antonelli in FP1.
Final Q2 runs then about to occur. It's Alonso, Magnussen, Gasly, Ocon and Ricciardo who are at risk. Albon is just on the fringes of the top 10. The projected knockout time, according to the data, is around a 1:22, which at the moment would be everybody down from Charles Leclerc onwards. That's 7th downwards, needing to go again. Leclerc and Russell still in the pits with just under 3.5 minutes to go. This is the sound of Pierre Gasly, who's making his way down the back straight. He's got a little bit of traffic in front of him, including his teammates. So I wonder if Alpine are going to try and orchestrate a little bit of a tow here. Indeed, it is only Ocon in front of him. So can Alpine pull this off here? Can Esteban Ocon play the team game? The man that's departing the team at the end of the year to go to Haas, and the man that is staying onwards are about to come flying across the start-finish straight. Indeed, Gasly bails right out of it, and they all do. So Magnussen is the man who benefits the most from a tow, and he breezes right past them, overtakes 1, 2, 3 cars down into turn 1, and away Kevin Magnussen goes to try and find his way through into Q3. Indeed, he has not yet made an appearance in Q3 this year in what will be his last season racing for the Haas Formula 1 team.
Yeah, it seemed a bit strange there, really. They looked like they were ready, lined up for a push lap, and Esteban just kind of fully bailed out of it. Maybe wasn't happy to give Hulkenberg a tow as well.
Quite possibly. Hulkenberg's just gone fastest in the first sector. Magnussen not having the best of first sectors. 26.5 for him, a 26.3 for the two Haas comparisons. We are waiting to see what Daniel Ricciardo has got. He's currently down 15th and last at the moment, but is having a decent first sector. What about Fernando Alonso? He's just coming to the end of his outlap, so we'll see what he's got with less than 2 minutes left on the clock. Piastri will be ramping up as well. Verstappen's out there too, so we're going to see what the 15 remaining drivers have got. Everyone from 11th downwards will be eliminated. Magnussen will cross the line first, and he does improve his final sector, but not enough. Stays 12th. Hulkenberg improves his time, but stays in 9th spot. So can Hulkenberg cling on to another Q3 appearance this year? What about Sergio Perez, who is under pressure hugely to retain that Red Bull seat into the Parabolica? Decent first and middle sectors, not as quick as Verstappen, who has just gone fastest of anybody in the middle sector. Across the line for Sergio Perez, improves his lap time but stays in 8th on the cusp. Verstappen though finds a huge chunk of time and rockets up into 2nd, less than half a tenth of a second away from Lewis Hamilton. Ricciardo cannot make it through into Q3, just misses out in 11th. Can Alex Albon hold on? Who's going quickly behind him? Albon is currently 10th. He's going to have to watch out for the two Alpines who have one final flyer to try and find their way up through the ranks. Alonso is also in 12th, but he's not had the best of sectors through the first sector. Middle sector slightly better though for Alonso. Albon threading the needle through Ascari down the back straight towards the Parabolica. Alonso is up on Albon in the middle sector, but Albon is up on his own times. Ocon too, having a decent first sector. Gasly a good first sector as well, but it's gone away from Ocon in the middle sector. Albon will be the first man to cross the line, improves his lap time, improves his position, goes up into 9th spot. That puts Hulkenberg down into 10th. The German at risk of being knocked out. Can Alonso knock him out? No, he can't. The Aston Martin driver will have to settle for 11th place. Will he lose any more positions? Esteban Ocon will try his best to the line for the Alpine driver. No, improves his lap time, stays in 15th. Gasly can't improve either. He stays in 14th. And that is Q2 done and dusted. Alonso, the first to fall in 11th. Ricciardo 12th. Magnussen 13th. And the two Alpines, Gasly 14th and Ocon 15th. Abby, as George Russell still going for a bit of a lap.
Yeah, I mean, Hulkenberg lap, what a lap. It was purple sector 1, green sector 2, and then it kind of all went a little bit wrong in sector 3, as we said. Maybe the overheating of the tyres didn't improve in that sector, and I almost thought that was gonna catch him out and drop him out of the top 10.
Well, Russell doesn't need to push, but he's continued to finish his lap. And I wonder if he just wants to get that extra bit of lap time, or is he giving a little bit of a toe to Hamilton? Were they just practicing something there? Russell is ahead of Hamilton on the track now. I wonder if they were just practicing perhaps for Q3, the prospect of a toe. Here's Alonso.
I think P11 is better than expected.
Alonso saying, I think P11 is better than expected. For Fernando Alonso, yes, just missing out on a top 10 spot. He's had a decent run of top 10 qualifyings, but cannot follow that up with a 5th consecutive Q3 appearance. Will start 11th for the Italian Grand Prix. Jenny.
So Lewis Hamilton fastest, but then Max Verstappen again finding a lap somehow out of what seemed like nowhere to put him in P2 for the end of qualifying to Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, Piastri, Russell, Leclerc, Perez, Albon and Hulkenberg, the top 10 making it through. And once again, Hulkenberg doing a really good job. Haas just have that performance on a Saturday that they can't quite keep on a Sunday, but nonetheless it's pretty impressive. Hulkenberg.
Yeah, it was a great lap. I think getting that Haas into Q3 is a great achievement. He's always seems to manage to pull one out the bag, similarly to Max, who says he's pulled one out the bag as well. But we'll see what he does in Q3. It will be the best of the rest. It's him and Alexander Albon in the Williams that will be tussling for 9th and 10th. Maybe we can see them further up, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
It's a 7th Q3 appearance for Nico Hulkenberg. He clinches the driver head-to-heads with Magnussen.
Yeah, honestly, that was about all I'd had.
Yeah, agreed. Good job.
That was just about all Daniel Ricciardo had, and all was 12th place for the RB driver, who does out-qualify his teammate Tsunoda, who is down in 16th. Just on Hulkenberg and Albon, I think that really highlights how important it is to have those drivers in your team, because over one lap, over a race, they are consistent, they are fast, and they are reliable, Abby, would you say?
That's exactly what I'd call them. It gives them the opportunity to be in front of the Fernando Alonsos and the Danny Ricciardos, who are incredible drivers and they can also equally pull a lap out the bag. But yeah, the Alexander Albons of the grid are what are giving Williams the opportunity to score some points and pick up some points at the end of the weekend.
Tell you what, this is going to be fascinating. The battle for pole is on. Hamilton, Verstappen, Norris, Sainz, Piastri, Russell, Leclerc. I think all of those drivers could potentially be on pole position. And this is just going to go down to the wire. Abby, what are the drivers feeling right now?
At this point, I mean, they've already done so many laps this weekend. They know the track. That they're just putting all of the data that they've gathered through the practices to I mean, it all goes into this one session. They've made the mistakes. This is where they need to put it all into, string it all together and put everything on the line.
Just under 4 minutes until we will start this session, 4:52 local time. And at the moment, Lewis Hamilton riding high, but Abby, the precision that is needed to master Monza, just tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I think the uniqueness of Monza is it's very long straight, so you have so much time to think about it. It's almost too much.
Danger.
You can easily overthink it, and especially in a race situation, you've got so much time to look in your mirrors, you end up getting glued to them too much. So it's a lot of discipline this track requires, and it's all about being tidy. It doesn't have to be super duper special with the lap. It just has to be super tidy.
And that's where consistency comes into
Exactly.
play. And I mean, who's your man at the moment? Who are you going for pole?
Gosh, I mean, the Englishman, I may be biased in that regard, but
You think?
Lewis has been really strong this weekend. Although, I mean, Max Verstappen, although the Red Bull isn't performing how they want, he's pretty good at pulling a lap out the bag. We always see it. He comes out of nowhere when we always think they're on the back foot. He makes the most out of the car.
Hashtag BBC F1. Let us know. We're just a couple of minutes away from the start of Q3. Let us know who you think will be on pole. For me, Harry, this is probably the closest qualifying and the most amount of drivers we've had competing for pole position since, I don't even know, 2012. I mean, this
If
is
in doubt,
just
2012 is a good one to pick.
yeah. This is just the absolute pinnacle of motorsport, and I love it.
I mean, it is so tight, wasn't it? I'm really intrigued by the Hamilton-Russell battle, because actually throughout this year in qualifying, Russell has had the upper hand, and really Hamilton has just kind of almost lied down and just accepted that. Hamilton hasn't been as quick as Russell over one lap. At the moment, it's 11-4 in Russell's favour when it comes to qualifying. But Hamilton is looking good here. In Q2, he was fastest of anybody in the final sector. Verstappen was the fastest man in the middle sector. Nico Hülkenberg was the fastest of anybody in Sector 1. So that's how rapid Hülkenberg's going at the moment in the Haas. So I honestly think if Hamilton can keep this together, he's got a shot at taking his first pole since 2023 in Hungary. And that would be a massive moment for him.
I mean, he's going to Ferrari next year, so maybe he's trying to impress the Tifosi.
Yeah, will he get the boos or will he get the cheers?
Oh no, there's a lot of love for Hamilton in these stands, and even with the Ferrari fans, the Tifosi, who have flocked to Monza to cheer on the guys that they absolutely love. You can see there's massive signs, and one even saying that Hamilton should be an eighth time world champion. So Ferrari have bought into this. They are loving Hamilton.
That's a controversial sign.
Yeah, let's not get stuck into that.
I just thought I'd leave it there. No comment.
That's how much the Tifosi now and the fans respect Lewis Hamilton, isn't it? And well, the final preparations are getting made before we head into Q3. But it's curious. Verstappen is starting to come on a little stronger throughout Q2 after looking a little bit troubled in Q1. Verstappen is pretty rapid on the straights, because we know that Red Bull is fast in a straight line.
I think they do it just to lead all the other teams into a false sense of security. I think they're just playing games at this point. They seem to, as you say, be amping it up and finding their feet, and they've closed the gap to what it was earlier on in the weekend.
Drivers are going out now, cars are going out. How would you play this, Abby? Would you want to go out first and get it done, or last and track evolution on your side? What would you prefer?
Gosh, I mean, as you say, track evolution is huge here. So there's the benefit of being the last across the line is the big. You're going to get the fastest time, but also there's such a high risk in red flags, safety cars, yellow flags, red flags, and getting your lap time impeded. You know, it's the risk of not getting a time in soon enough. So you almost want to set a banker early on and then try and get that last lap dash.
Well, we are in to the last lap dash now for qualifying for the Italian Grand Prix. Who will secure pole position? for tomorrow's race. 11 minutes and 9 seconds remain as they crawl out of the pits, trying to establish them all an even gap, so they've got, well, clear air in front of them or a handy tow as well. That will be the trick. And in this final top 10 shootout will be the two McLarens of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, the two Ferraris of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, the two Red Bulls of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, and the two Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, along with the sole remaining.
We saw that one as well.
Yeah.
That was Gianpiero Lambiase on the radio to Max Verstappen as Carlos Sainz was released into the path of Max Verstappen, who did do quite a bit of avoiding to get around the Ferrari that was released into the path of the Red Bull in the pit lane. So that way may well be reported to the stewards. Didn't look as dicey as the Piastri one earlier, but we'll see how that one unfolds. And along with the 2x2 for the top 4 teams, it will be a sole Williams of Alex Albon and a sole Haas of Nico Hülkenberg. Jen.
If the timing screens are right, which I always worry that they aren't, Albon, Perez and Hülkenberg are the drivers out there on used tyres. Everyone else is out there on a soft tyre that's brand shiny new.
That Sainz incident for an unsafe release into the path of Verstappen has been noted by the stewards then. Okay, Abby, pick for pole with 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes.
God, you couldn't write it. I have no clue who's going to take this one. I think that's it. It's so kind of how the sports kind of evolved, and the cars this year they've gotten so.
Stop dodging the question.
Bridging, it's called bridging. Yeah, I mean, it's so close. I'd say any of the Brits. I'd be happy for any of the Brits to take the top step.
What a cop out, Jenny.
Norris for me.
Straight to it.
You?
Hamilton. Why not?
Joe? Producer Joe, give us a verdict.
Hamilton as well, and sound producer Pete, you've gone for Joe. Joe's knocked out. He was knocked out in Q1. Honestly, the producers in this team. Right, back to Q3 action then as it starts to ramp up for the first flyers. Lando Norris making his way towards the second Lesmo now. He's a good distance behind his teammate Oscar Piastri. Not enough for a tow, but Piastri fastest of anybody in the middle sector, and just as he comes into the braking zone for Ascari, just dips a wheel onto the grass. Nearly thought that might have seen the McLaren spun backwards, but he held on to it. Fastest of anybody in the middle sector. Piastri absolutely wringing the neck of that McLaren, looking for what could be his first pole position in Formula 1, and he comes across the line and goes to the top with a 1:19.436. Sainz is going fastest of anybody in the first sector, though the Piastri is quickest in the middle. Norris to the line, he's fastest in the final sector, fastest overall. A 1:19.4 for Lando Norris. It's McLaren 1 and 2. Sainz slots in to third, Perez fourth, Hülkenberg fifth, Albon now seventh as Verstappen could only manage fifth on his first flyer behind his teammate Perez as Leclerc puts himself up into fourth.
Oscar there was so close to having a big one really on the entry of Ascari. Putting a wheel on the grass there is not ideal for sure, and it could have been his Q3 over just like that. So as I said, put a bank on the line to begin with, but it's safe, but he's all out straight away.
George Russell to the line, third fastest, ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton in fourth, but it is tight at the top. 3/10 splitting the top six, and then it's another 3/10 back to the two Red Bulls, Jenny.
Just so you know, Perez was on a set of used tyres, so even used soft tyres, it is still ahead of his teammate Verstappen, so that obviously something went wrong for Verstappen out there.
Well, first runs in quali as they come back into the pits and will bolt on a fresh set of soft tyres as Perez comes into the pits, stamps on the brakes, hits the pit limiter down to 80 kilometres an hour. Because Red Bull are the champions, it's not very far to drive into his pit box. It's the first one he comes across as he gets greeted by his mechanics, immediately turns the engine off and is put up onto the jacks and wheeled back into his garage, and Piastri follows suit. Here's Verstappen.
Grip at all this set. Shocking.
No grip at all on that set of tyres. We do know they were now old sets of soft tyre. Oh no, they weren't. They were new, were they? They're new sets on soft tyres for Verstappen. So no grip. That is shocking, Abby.
Yeah, they just seem to not have anything positive to say on the radio this weekend. They keep struggling with the balance, a lot of understeer, no grip, and just seeming to think they won't get to the top of it and fix it this weekend.
Sandbagging? Just slow down in the final sector. Oh no, we can see a replay of what happened. Abby?
Yeah, going through Parabolica, it seemed to have enough grip on the entry of the corner, but got to the apex and the rear just gave out quite a big snap as he was feeding the power on. Not what you want around a corner like that, where you're going almost 200 kilometers an hour.
Just over 5 minutes remaining of Q3. Norris is currently on provisional pole with a 1:19.4, but it's only 0.035 of a second splitting Norris and Piastri. Russell is third, Hamilton fourth, the two Ferraris are fifth and sixth, Sainz ahead of Leclerc, Perez ahead of Verstappen in seventh and eighth, and it's Hülkenberg and Albon a second adrift from the rest.
Just to let you know that the incident involving Sainz for an unsafe release has been no further investigation has been reviewed and no further investigation needed. So it's good that they've gone back so quickly. If McLaren could freeze frame this session and end it right now, I think they'd be happy enough with the Mercedes, the team behind them, and Verstappen and Perez in 7th and 8th. Perez leading Verstappen at the moment, and they can't freeze frame it. It's still, the clock is ticking down with just under 4.5 minutes left, but oh, if they could end it like this, how perfect would it be? Yeah,
well, the most ideal scenario for McLaren this weekend is to get as many cars in between them and Verstappen as possible. But, I mean, there's still 4 minutes on the clock. There's a lot of time for it to all switch up in the next 4 minutes.
It's the calm before the storm, isn't it, this moment? And, I mean, McLaren's last front row here in Monza was back in 2012 and then 2021. They're 1-2 with Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. Could they smell and taste another potential front row lockout and another 1-2 finish? Could they achieve that? Norris versus Piastri. Is that about to unfold over the next 3.5 minutes? What can the two Mercedes do with George Russell and Lewis Hamilton? Can Ferrari throw a spanner in the works, an upgraded Scarlet Scuderia with Sainz and Leclerc? 5th and 6th, the two Red Bulls as well. Never rule out Max Verstappen. Hulkenberg and Albon also out there too.
You know who the crowd are going to be cheering on, don't you?
Hulkenberg.
I mean, there will be some, but I think it might be the Ferraris. Sainz and Leclerc, obviously home favourites, as you say, running an upgraded car this weekend. They've got 3 minutes to perform some sort of miracle and get that car onto pole position.
I almost feel it's who's going to be able to play the team game the most and who's going to be able to pull their teammate along at the end of the day. It's going to be really close. I see the times closing up even more to what they are now.
Charles Leclerc just making his way out of the pits now. Perez is first on the road. Verstappen is behind him. Perhaps Perez will be the sacrifice for Max Verstappen to get a couple of extra tenths.
You think?
Perhaps.
It's likely.
But indeed, Verstappen could give a lovely toe to Hulkenberg, who's behind him. And Hulkenberg has been rapid in that first sector. At the moment, Sainz is fastest of anybody in the first sector. Piastri holds the fastest middle sector, and Norris holds the fastest final sector. So it's a split between the McLarens and the Ferraris. But it's McLaren who have the advantage at the moment, with 2 minutes to go as we gear up for the final flyers to find out who will be on pole for the Italian Grand Prix. 2 minutes to go. Verstappen winding up for his final flyer round the final corner of the Parabolica as the sun glints off the Red Bull car, ramps up to the main straight. The DRS rear wing flap will fly open as he speeds up to over 340 kilometers an hour, almost touching 350 before he has to slam on the brakes just before the 100-meter braking board into turn 1 and 2, the Rettifilo chicane, onto the throttle, out of turn 2 through the right-hander that arcs through Curva Grande, getting a lovely view of the gravel to his left, keeping it neat and tidy. What can Verstappen do in this first sector? He's 0.08 of a second up on Lando Norris's sector one time, but he's down on his own. Verstappen needs to find more time.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to pull it out of the bag if he's got a yellow first sector. Oh,
I think Perez might have had a little drift off out of the second Lesmo as Verstappen comes through the second Lesmo and gets a face full of dust from the gravel. And I think it is Perez who is the car in front of him. Actually, it might be Hamilton who had a little run off into the gravel. We'll see. But Verstappen's lap is not coming together for him. He's trying to get tow from Hamilton. He's trying to get tow from the Red Bull of Perez, who is doing a sublime job and cuts right across the track to get out of Verstappen's way as they approach the Parabolica. The two Mercedes gearing up for a quick lap. Can Verstappen do anything? No, he can't. Verstappen across the line, and it's only 7th fastest for the Dutchman, who gets immediately out of the way of the Mercedes. Perez is not going to get a final lap in. He comes into the pits. So in an effort to try and improve Verstappen's position, Perez sacrifices his own lap time, and in the end, it's still only 7th and 8th on the road right now for the two Red Bulls. That is a disaster for qualifying if it remains that way. The checkered flag is out. Norris is fastest in the middle sector. Norris currently with the advantage, but Sainz is finding time as well. Fastest of anybody in the first sector. Norris to the line, finds more time, takes provisional pole for the Italian Grand Prix. A 10th between himself and Piastri. Can the Australian do anything about it? No, he can't. At the moment, it's second. But what about Carlos Sainz? What about Charles Leclerc? Can they disrupt a McLaren front row lockout? Sainz can't do it. He settles for third. That becomes fourth as Charles Leclerc takes that spot away from his teammate. It's the two Ferraris currently in third and fourth as we now look and see what the two Mercedes can bring to the party. Can George Russell or Lewis Hamilton do anything about the Ferraris and the McLarens ahead? Russell will cut the timing beam first. Round the final corner of the Parabolica. To the line for George Russell. It's third for Russell. What about Hamilton? To the line now. It's only 6th place for Hamilton. He does not have enough. And that will be qualifying done and dusted. And it's Lando Norris on pole position. And Oscar Piastri makes it a McLaren front row lockout in Italy for the first time since 2012. George Russell will start third ahead of the two Ferraris. Leclerc ahead of Sainz. Hamilton is 6th, and Max Verstappen only in 7th ahead of his teammate Sergio Perez in 8th, which is one of the worst qualifying results collectively for Red Bull in a mightily long time. Albon 9th ahead of Hulkenberg in the Haas, who rounds out the top 10.
wow. McLaren are making a statement this year. They have to be so happy after that result. I mean, especially when they saw Verstappen come over the line and be P7. It's really, really surprising.
Verstappen came over the line and Perez went into the pits. He absolutely sacrificed that, and as a result, Red Bull will start 7th and 8th in this race tomorrow.
Well, they were going to be there anyway, but it would have been Perez ahead of Verstappen. So all Perez did was just give Verstappen a little bit of a hit, a nudge.
I'm sorry. My bad.
Okay, mate. Well, I'm sorry. Your lap was good enough for pole.
Cool. Means your setup was amazing. Well done, boys. Lovely one too. Congrats.
Well, it sounded disappointed at first with his final lap, but his first one was enough to secure pole position, his 4th pole position. Lando Norris, the man who is currently 70 points adrift of Max Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship, will start the Italian Grand Prix on pole, and this is exactly what McLaren had to do, Jenny. They had to have Piastri up there with Norris, locking out the front row, and they had to hope that Red Bull would struggle, and that's exactly what's happened.
If you could write the script, that would be what Zak Brown would want. A really healthy gap between his two drivers and Max Verstappen. They want to challenge for the constructors, and okay, people think maybe the title would be too far for Lando Norris. It'd need to be faultless, but this is the opportunity he needs to capitalise on. They must come up with some sort of team orders tomorrow. I feel that Norris must be given preferential treatment to win this race if he can?
Yeah, I definitely see them putting Norris first when he's so in such a good opportunity to take points out of the championship leader Max Verstappen. But I almost question how much pace is actually in that McLaren, because he sounded almost surprised. He wasn't happy with his lap. He was so surprised that he was on pole position. So maybe there was a little bit more in there for him.
Just over a tenth between Norris and Piastri in the end in terms of outright lap time. Good result from George Russell as well, who gets out of his Mercedes and goes over to be Wade. Russell looking to try and well convert that to some sort of spot on the podium. He hasn't been on the podium since his win in Austria. Did win, of course, in Spa, but disqualified, so didn't get any of the points or the plaudits that come with it. But the one thing that McLaren will be worried about tomorrow will be their starts. As we get a look of what happened to Sergio Perez on his final flying lap. Coming through the second Lesmo, Abby, it was Perez who ran wide, and that was enough to scupper his lap.
Yeah, just ran out of road on the exit. It seems to be catching out the best of them this weekend. Lesmo 2, I don't think it's been reduced in length, so you'd think through the practices they'd have kind of become a bit more acquaint with that corner.
Now, clearly, so Perez was sent out in front of Verstappen, but also I imagine was expected to do a full lap. We're going to hear actually from the pole sitter shortly with Davide Valsecchi, the Formula 2 champion, former.
Say ciao to everyone, to Oscar Piastri, second today, front row for tomorrow. How was your lap, man? You were there, eh?
Yeah, the first lap in Q2 and Q3 was quite good. Just the second one, not quite enough, which I feel like I've said a few too many times this year. So no, still a good performance and a really good team effort. You know, I think the field's been incredibly tight this weekend. So I think I said on the radio, you know, there was no guarantee of a front row lockout for us. So yeah, an amazing effort to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, fantastic morning for you and for your team. What do you expect about tomorrow's race? Because it seems that you are in a perfect moment with your car.
Yeah, I mean, starting a bit further up the front than last week is definitely a positive for myself. It's obviously a long run down to turn one, so starting second here is not always the worst thing, but yeah, let's see what the tyres do tomorrow. It's been a little bit different to what we're used to in Monza, so yeah, it could be a pretty exciting race, and with such a tight field at the front, I think it will be very exciting.
Well done, congratulations. Front row for tomorrow. Oscar Piastri.
2012 F2 champion, speaking
Russell.
to Oscar Piastri. Here's George Russell with Davide Valsecchi.
George Russell, third position, just at the end. How was your lap and how was your car to drive?
Yeah, it was great. Ending up P3, a little bit better than I expected because it was a really tough session, Q1 and Q2, and fortunately we saved it until the end, not too far behind the McLarens. They're so fast at the moment, and we're working so hard to catch them up, but I'm yeah, super happy with third.
And tell me about tomorrow, because you had some amazing race this season. What do you expect and what do you think about Monza?
I think it's going to be a tight battle. Everybody's so close out there. So exciting for F1. You know, we've all been waiting for this competition and knowing if you do a great job, you got a chance of victory. So, you know, I'm pretty pumped for tomorrow. Get some nice pizzas tonight to fuel me up, and a bit of extra weight, so not too light tomorrow. And hopefully we can fight for a good result.
Looking forward for it.
Grazie.
Well done, congratulations. Third position for George Russell with Mercedes.
George Russell there starting the Italian Grand Prix in third, and your pole sitter.
Lando! Very well done. Poleman, fifth of his career. Lando Norris, Poleman in Monza. Talk me through your lap, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, another pole, which is amazing. So, like Oscar said, to have two cars, first and second, when the field has been as tight as it has all weekend, it's a little bit of a surprise, but a nice one. So, big well done to the team. Done an amazing job. Honestly, my lap it hurts me to say it was not a great lap. My Q3 run 1 was, but run 2 was a little bit more, and we're still good enough for pole. So a little bit surprised again, but very, very happy.
Congratulations for it. Seems that you are building up a fantastic moment for yourself. You're racing so well. You are always competitive. Your car is helping you. What do you expect for tomorrow's race?
Yeah, the same. Really, the same would be lovely. But like we've seen all weekend, it's so close. There's a lot of very quick drivers behind and quick cars. So I'm not expecting a very easy race tomorrow. And like George said, a lot of unknown things going into the race with the degradation, the tires, the tarmac, So plenty of question marks and plenty of excitement, I'm sure.
And then Prima Variante, first chicane here in Monza scared me so much, but I'm not Lando Norris. But what do you think about that?
I mean, it's always a little daunting, on a quali lap especially. You don't know how much to push. But it's a fun one. The whole circuit's amazing, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Thank
well
you.
done. Lando Norris, Pullman with McLaren.
Davide Valsecchi with the questions, Lando Norris with some of the answers, but plenty of question marks ahead of tomorrow, and that's what we like. 1:45, we will start coverage on the BBC Sport website. Please join us, because it's going to be an absolute classic. Monza is always good. The podium is special. I can't tell you how special it is. And just imagine if Lando Norris, going from pole, manages to convert it to a win, and this championship challenge could truly be on the cards. It's a McLaren 1-2. Join us tomorrow. Thank you so much to Abby Pulling for joining us, to Harry Benjamin, to the whole team. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.